Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we are going to learn VDC and its concept. So in this, we will see what is the VDC and how VDC works. So VDC is said to be the virtual device context supported by Nexus NXOS software series. Uh, what it does, it helps in partition of a single physical device to a multiple logical devices and acts as a unique and independent switch. It's just like an independent switch that we normally use in our network architecture, and it has its own configuration and can be managed by a separate administrator. So you can treat a VDC as a single switch, right? Now there are some following benefits of the Nexus VDC. I mean, it provides the fault isolation. It means that if any fault occurs at layer 2 or layer 3 processes, it will not affect any other processes running on another logical switches. It also provides the management isolation because each logical switches can be treated as an individual switch and can be managed separately, right? And each switch will have its own unique management IP from where you can log into different logical switches of a same Nexus physical box, and you can access it. So it provides the management isolation, it provides the fault isolation, it also provides the hardware isolations. Means if any port you assign to a particular VDC, right, it will be a part of that particular VDC only. So let's suppose I am going to assign port number 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4 to VDC A, 1 by 5, 1 by 6, 1 by 7 to VDC B. So these three ports will always be a part of VDC A, and these three ports will always be a part of VDC B only. Until or unless the admin will reallocate it, and as soon as it will reallocate to different VDC, the port configuration will got erased. Now, another benefits of the VDC is it provides the separation of the data traffic at VDC level, right? And it provides the enhanced security at the VDC level. Why? Because if let's suppose you configure any security policies into a particular VDC, that security policies will be applied to that particular VDC only. It will not be replicated, or it will not be used to another VDC. So let's suppose you have a three type of environment in your data center: prod, DMZ, and test. For these three environment, you will be installing your core switches, aggregation switches, and then access layer switches, all these. So for three environment, approximately here you can see you have configured three switches, and three switches. So total you have configured 9 switches. But what 9 different switches. But now in the Nexus, what happens if you have a same physical device, right? You can create a logical switches. So I can use the same physical chassis and I will create a same 9 logical switches, and I will right, or I can create a 3 switches, right? I will allocate it for VDC A, or a prod you can do VDC DMJ and VDC test. So instead of using 9 different switches, I am using a same physical chassis, and I am logically dividing this physical chassis into 9 logical switches. Now let's go to another topic. Here we can see the VDC architecture. So in the VDC architecture, the VDC is created on a same physical nexus switches. We have a same one physical nexus switches, right? And on the top of it, VDC will be created using the same kernel and the same infrastructure layer base. So if we talk about the kernel, right? NXOS uses Linux 2.6 kernel, right? This is the base layer. Right? On the top of it, NXOS resides. Right? And with the help of this kernel, you know, Nexus supports multi-threading and multitasking. Multi-threading and multitasking. Right? So this is the functions of the, and benefits of the, NILX 2.6 kernel. Now I can talk about the infrastructure layer. Right. So infrastructure layer is nothing but the NXOS iOS, right? That runs on the kernel. So here you can see this is your physical chassis, physical device. On the top of it, kernel 2.6 is there, and on the top of it, your NXOS is running. So NXOS 7.2 or 8 or 9 or 10, any versions of the iOS, it works. Right. So with the help of infrastructure layer, or if I say NXOS, right, it helps in creation, deletion, right, moving of resources, across VDC, monitoring of the VDC, you can do it, right? Now with this layer, what we can do, we can separately create the layer 2 and layer 3 instances, right? So let's suppose this is my physical device and I have configured VDC1 and I have configured VDC2, or let's suppose VDCN is there, right? So with this layer, or layer 2 and layer 3 protocol service runs within a VDC and are independent of each other. So in VDC1, just like if you compare with this separate switch, what happens? I have a separate switch, let's suppose switch 1, and I have a separate switch, let's suppose switch 2. Here I am configuring the HTTP, here I am configuring the VLAN, here I am configuring the routing protocol, right? Let's suppose EIGRP or OSPF or BGP, right? So these all layer 2 and layer 3 protocols are independently running in this switch. Likewise, the same here. So if you compare with the VDC, even though they are sharing a same physical device, but you have configured the VDC's logical switches, and in logical switches, whatever layer 2 protocol, layer 3 protocol you are running, they will be running independently. Okay, so this is the benefits and magic of the VDC. And why it happens? Because each VDC will have its own configuration file. So let's suppose I have a VDC1, my config file will be the vdc1.config. VDC2, my configuration will be vdc2.conf. So because I have a separate configuration file related to each NX VDC, so my all layer 2 and layer 3 instances will be running separately, and they will have their own layer 2 and layer 3 RIB or MAC address table, etc., just like a separate physical switches. Now here we are going to see the licenses, how many licenses are there, and how many VDC we can create in a single chassis. So the number of VDC are dependent on the supervisor engine and the number of license used. So let's suppose I have a supervisor 1, right? And if I want to, and if I am using one advanced service license is the license which is used to create a VDC, right? So if I have a supervisor 1 and I am using an advanced service license, I can create one default VDC and 3 non-default VDC. So total number of switches will be 4. Right now, if I'm using the same supervisor and using the same one advanced service license, but here I am not using the default VDC, instead I am going to use the admin VDC. In that case, I can use the 4 non-default VDC. So total number of switches will be 5. So we can talk later. I mean, what is the VDC in the VDC type? What is the default VDC? What is the admin VDC? What are their, their benefits are, where the default VDCs are used, where the admin VDCs are used, all these stuff. Now, if I choose the supervisor 2 and I'm using the same advanced service license, I can use one default VDC and I can create 3 non-default VDC. So again 4 And if I'm going to use the admin VDC, I will create a 4 non-default VDC now. Now, if I'm going to use a supervisor 2E, so in the 2E, I can use 2 advanced service license instead of 1. So here, what I can do, if I'm going to have a default VDC, then I can create a 7 non-default VDC. But if I'm using the one admin VDC, then I can create one default non-default VDC. So number of will be the 8, and here the number of VDC will be the 9. So if I'm using the default VDC, number of non-default VDC will be 3. If I am using a admin VDC, then I can use 4 non-default VDC, right, in one advanced service license, right? Other than that, if I'm using one default VDC, I can create 7 non-default VDC. If I'm using one admin VDC, then I can create 8 non-default VDC. This is the case of SOUP 2E plus 2 advanced service license. And here in the case of SOUP 1 and SOUP 2. Okay. Now let's talk about the VDC resources. So there are 3 types of VDC resources that can be allocated to the VDC by network admin user, right? So what are those VDC resources? Global resources, dedicated resources, and shared resources. So what are global resources? Those resources which are allocated, configured globally for all VDC from the default VDC. So if we are in default VDC, and from that VDC, if I am applying such a resource that will be allocated to all my default VDC and non-default VDC, and I am able to configure, then these VDCs are called as a global resources. So those resources, right, which are allocated configured globally for all VDC from default VDC are called as global resources. Now, what is the example of the global resources? If I talk about boot image configuration, COPP, etc. Now, what are dedicated resources? Dedicated resources are those resources that are allocated to a particular VDC. Allocated to a particular VDC at a time, right? They are called as a dedicated resources. Example of the dedicated resources are layer 2, layer 3, ports, VLANs, subnets, etc. And what are the shared resources? So shared resources are those resources that are shared between VDCs. Right, are called as a shared VDC, like out of band management port. So we will see later how the management ports are shared between all the VDCs. Now let's something more talk more about the dedicated resources. So what happens if I talk about the layer 2 and layer 3 ports? Initially, what happens when you log into, when you power on your chassis, right, you will be a part of default VDC, and all the physical interface belong to the default VDC as a VDC1. So in VDC1 is set to be the default VDC. Now, as soon as we create a non-default VDC, we have to assign the Ethernet port to that particular non-default VDC. And when we allocate an interface to a non-default VDC, all the configuration for that interface will got erased, and that particular port will be assigned to a particular VDC. Now from NXOS, 5.2-1, version, right? All member of a port group are automatically allocated to VDC when you allocate one port of that member group from that specific line card. So what happens? So there are some of the line cards, right, that comes into the grouping, group of 3, group of 4, right? So let's suppose 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So these are grouped. So 2 port grouping, 4 port grouping, 12 port grouping, 8 port grouping. So I'm using, I'm taking an example where I'm using a line card where 4 port grouping are there. Now, let's suppose if you allocate 1 by 1 port to a VDC A. So now port number 1 is a part of a group that has a 3, 5, 7 port also. So all these 1 by 1, 1 by 3, 1 by 5, 1 by 7 will be a part of VDC A only. But if you want to allocate 1 by 5 to a particular VDC, it will not support, it will give an error. So likewise, if any of the port of this group, let's suppose you allocate a port number to a VDC B. Now the rest member of this group 4, 6, 8 will also be a part of VDC B. If you want to allocate port number 4 or a port number 6 to a particular different VDC, it will give an error. Okay, so this, you have to take care while assigning a port to a particular VDC. Now VDC, module compatibility. So in this, we can see each module in a VDC may or may not be compatible with another module. Now, if let's suppose you have a VDC, right, and if you want to allocate of some port of F1 module, F2 module, F2E module, F3 module, but you can't do like that. Some modules are not compatible with another module. So while allocating ports to VDC from different module, you must have to see the compatibility matrix. So you have to go and check with this, Cisco and module data sheet whether your F1 module is compatible with F2 module in that particular VDC or not. Okay, so here you can see that F2 module is compatible with F2 only, right? So F2 module is not compatible with F2. F1, it is not compatible with M2XL. It is not compatible to M3. So the thumb rule is F2 module is compatible to F2, F2E, and F3. So this is the one thumb rule that you have to take care. Otherwise, if you talk about F1, F1 is compatible with F1, M2, F1 is not compatible with F2E, F3, M3. So likewise, F1 is also not compatible with F2E, F3, M3, right? So these are all the compatibility matrix you have to follow. So thank you for watching Nexus VDC introduction series. Thank you very much.